All right, that brings us to Room for Home Improvement. Benford. Yep, brought to you by Benford Tools.
Oh, my tethered voice is way better than my Tim Allen Home Improvement voice. Never thought that would be referenced in this entire series.
After you just told the whole world he sold coke like 10, 15 years ago?
Okay. So my issue with this movie, if I could change one thing, is it's a movie that sticks the landing perfectly, only to, in the end of the third act, keep running for some reason until they trip and fall down over too much information, too much exposition. When a movie tries to explain something and it ends up creating more questions and end up being distracting from the impact of the climax of the movie, that becomes a problem for me. And I think that happened here. I feel like it should have been left up to interpretation. Like, once they started getting into the thick details of government conspiracy, and now I have questions about the logistics. Like, before, when it was up to interpretation, the way I interpreted it was it's kind of a metaphor for, like, mental illness. She had this Adelaide had this traumatic experience when she was a kid. Probably triggered by her parents, who were obviously going through some marital problems. Maybe this night at the carnival was like a night to, or the boardwalk was like a night to. It was supposed to be like, maybe it was her realization as a child, like, if we can't have a good time here, and my parents can't be happy here, then there's no hope. And maybe that was the night she realized that her parents might not be together. And so it's like this bipolar disorder kicks in at that moment. And there's, like, in my mind, watching it up until they started explaining everything at the end, was that there's not really all this stuff happening underground. It's all a metaphor for the bipolar side of her taking over at that point. And then when she returns to there as an adult, I interpreted it as it's bringing up all these feelings that she hasn't felt since she was a child, and at that point, the bipolar switches back and comes back into control. That's how with that, I have no questions about the logistics of how any of this works underground. But when you tell me that this isn't a literal thing that's happening, that there are literally clones of people created by the government living underground, now I have some questions, such as the rabbits. In Tethered Land, they only live on rabbits. So they would have died almost immediately from starvation. There's actually a thing called rabbit starvation, because the only nutrient that they possess is protein. So they had no other nutrients. They would have died. And furthermore, what did the rabbits eat? Because rabbits are known for being creatures that eat way more than they actually need to. And when you go down there, you don't see any farm, any like grass area. No, like, what are the rabbits eating? Furthermore, the tethered don't cook the rabbits, so eating them raw would have resulted in food poisoning long before the rabbit starvation ended up killing them. Okay, so that's my issue with the rabbits. That's just one portion of the logistical problems that come up when I start thinking about all of these people living underground. The tethered and their counterparts are in lockstep, seemingly until they get above ground, and then they can work in their own autonomy. But while they're underground in lockstep, we only see one floor underground. So how does this work when their above ground counterparts are in high rises? Are tethers just like stacking each other up on top of, like?
They showed you that, though.
Did they?
They clearly showed you. It isn't. It's so much of what you said, but I'm not going to break it all down. But just to simply answer your question, you saw people who were on a Ferris wheel that was going up and down. They were simply in a hallway, only turning left and right. They couldn't perceive height, or from what they showed, they couldn't perceive that.
So you have somebody on this in a room on here in an apartment, and a room right here in an apartment. So they are right above each other. How does that translate in Tethered Land?
It doesn't translate because you see,
So they
like,
just
but no,
kinda
but no, but
stand
see,
right next to each other in a
it's what you said.
congregation?
We saw one floor. We saw her go down one flight. Well, first off, why was that escalator there? But we saw her go down an escalator. How do we know it was in several escalators? Once we accept one escalator that came out of nowhere, we don't know how far it goes down. We saw one level. Again, it all goes back to the first 5 to 10 seconds. There are plenty of things without explanation. So they letting you know that no matter what they show you in the film, they're not wrong.
Well, here's my thing.
Clearly.
They could make it. They opened up a can of worms at the
Oh
end of
yeah,
this
big
movie.
can. So yeah, you're talking about them not even cooking the rabbits. I mean, again, they said earlier that what they believe happened was they found a way to clone the person, but not the soul. If you don't have a soul, you're not hungry. So it's plenty of lore that says that.
Yeah, but they're still human. They're still clones of human beings, so they require what human beings require.
That's not true.
All right, so
Have you never seen the
all right,
multiplicity?
let's say that they are surviving on the rabbit somehow miraculously. There are
I don't
still,
think they're surviving on the rabbits. Whenever somebody
Where are-
eats something, they're just eating that because that's all that's
It
down
was
there.
so pristine when you go down there. Where
Who's cleaning it up?
Yeah.
Where's the going?
And tethereds are dying of old age. They can still die down there of like just old age or their
I think they
counterparts
showed it
like going
perfectly,
out,
and
so-
you're not giving it credence to what happened. If you, because I made a joke about this, but I was just like, damn. When I was watching the film, I was like, I think she, in some sick way, I think when Lupita was a child, she left her dad. Was like, I gotta go. Like maybe her dad was so up there, she thought that maybe down there her dad. But that's not why she did it. But what I noticed was, I'm like, damn, her dad's really up on top. But then I was like, damn, he's even more up on the bottom, letting me know that they truly, their DNA, their chromosomes weren't the same as ours. And the moment you accept that, then they don't have to eat. They do age. They are worse off than we are down there. But maybe they can, like, they don't need what we need. You can't say that they're based off of us, but they're not us.
Okay, I can accept that, but I would like to accept it in the form of a well fleshed out sequel that explains this can of worms that they opened at the end. Because the first one, us would have been perfectly fine without the over explanation of how these people came to. They could have did everything they did and left it with that, and not. I did not need to know how they came to be. I didn't need to know any of that.
Where's the payoff? If we don't give them that, where's the payoff?
The fact I don't know. I don't know.
And that's my point. The
It
fans.
it needs to be expounded upon
It was though.
more.
And there you have it. I really, really searched hard to find things I would change about this film. But to be honest with you, I couldn't. There was only one thing that I found that I would change about this film, and it was truly just a scene, because it was the only thing that made me challenge everything I truly believed about the film. As you mentioned, that the tethered were connected, lock and step, not just up and down. Like even when they came to the surface, they still, as you saw when another honorable mention badass scene when that boy walked himself into the fire. He knew that would do that. But it also showed you how smart the tethered were, because Lupita's character Red was there waiting for him. But my point, the only thing I would have changed was this. Okay, there's a scene where Winston Duke's character, Jason, when he is in the water with his doppelganger, and what he does as his first and foremost, I'm not even gonna bring that other scene back, but it shows you how even his doppelganger was corny, because when he fell out the boat, it was an old gag from like Looney Tunes, like the rope wraps around him, he gets ready to kill him, and then it drives him off. But so that's a Looney Tune reference. But the more importantly is when
Even the way the life raft pops up without him.
It just really pops up. One of the things that really got me was when he's getting back on the boat, all of a sudden Jason's character realizes, like, oh man, like it hits him, like we're connected. So whatever I do to me, I do to him. And so Jason bangs his head against the boat, and it knocks his doppelganger out, but not him.
Yeah.
That's what really with me. I'm like, you've just broken the law of everything. Yeah, that was the one. I'm like, who was there not to tell you, hey, Jordan, you're asking our guest on our show today what he wants to do. Why don't you ask us? Because we would have saw that and be like, no, that can't happen. If he not, now if they would have both knocked themselves out, it still would have been funny to me, because now it makes sense. Like, okay, two corny people. But when he and furthermore, if anybody should have got knocked out, it should have been the original person that banged their head on the thing.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of with me. But other than that, it wasn't too much I would change.
I agree with that one.
Yeah.
Find us in all these links. It's coming up right now.
That's the Crayola.